Hi, this is Alex from Adult Services, and welcome to Musical Instrument Saxophone. Today's presentation will cover presentation of the saxophone and examples of music, care of instrument from setup to takedown, review of books used in presentation, a brief history of me playing saxophone, review of costs to consider.
Now we'll demonstrate two different saxophones that I have. One is a B-flat tenor. It's a used tenor from the 1950s, 1960s. I paid between $100 to $200 for it. I also have a brand new Yamaha Alto saxophone. This one's more of a professional one. I've been playing actually saxophone for around 16 years now, so I wanted to get a professional one when I joined a volunteer band that I'm actually in. So that particular model is around $3,000. If you buy a beginner model, you could spend anywhere under $1,000, so a couple hundred to about $1,000. So that's like a student model if you're just starting out for the first time. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about an instrument to buy, that there's the student beginner models, there's the intermediate models, and then there's the more professional models if you've been playing for a long time. So just keep that in mind when you go to buy a horn. So we'll be now talking about how you assemble one of these. I'm going to start with the tenor saxophone. Okay, to assemble my tenor saxophone, I'm going to first open up the tenor saxophone case. So the main part of the Boucher 1950s, 1960s tenor saxophone is the body of the horn. This is the main one that you'll be holding, and this is where a lot of the keys are. So when I eventually start playing the instrument, I'll be lining up my fingers on the keys. There's pads. So this is the main body of the instrument. In this compartment, you have something called the neck. That's the second part that has to be assembled. So important, when you're putting this on, do not grip by the octave key because you will bend it. And actually, when I started out with playing my tenor back when I was in high school, I used to do that a lot. You start forcing it on. So be very careful. It's better to actually make sure you loosen the screw first and then grip by the cork and then just slowly put it on. And make sure you hold the actual horn. Don't try to hold on the keys. Again, you don't want to bend any of your keys because as soon as you start bending keys, you will start having issues. So that's proper care. Be very careful not to lean on these. Don't bend on them. Don't be trying to grip on it. So try to grip on the actual body of the instrument and then just work your way very gently. And then make sure that this lines up with the octave key. And then that this is closed. You don't want to have this leaking air because that could actually cause you to squeak. And you don't want to squeak your instrument. When I say the word squeak is on a reed instrument, if there's any leaking air, it will cause the instrument to make noises you don't want to hear. So I attached the neck to the body. The next thing you want to make sure to do is you want to add cork grease. Okay, so we have our cork grease here. Okay, so you'll add a little bit of cork grease onto the cork so that when we put the mouthpiece on, it'll go on easy. So the final part, we're going to attach the mouthpiece. I have a mouthpiece cover that protects the mouthpiece. This is a Selmer C-Star. I've always been very fond of the Selmer mouthpieces. There's all sorts of different brands. There's Yamaha, but I like the Selmer mouthpieces. So then you can put it on and slide it on. And then make sure that your ligature right here is also not bent, that you have that on there because that's where it'll attach the reed. So you have your ligature, your mouthpiece, the neck, the body. You also need something to be able to carry the instrument called the neck strap. So you put the neck strap around your neck, the other end attaches to the horn. Now the most important part, your reeds. So I have a carry case, Van Doren 3 reed. That's what I like to use. There's different firmness of reeds. It depends on what your preference is. So do the little bit of research, or you might end up buying, a 2.5, 3. They actually go up to 5. The thicker the reeds, the harder it is to blow on the instrument. The thinner the reeds, it'll be easy to have the air flow through there, but you might have to just still be cautious. So again, different reeds. I start out with a 3, but 2.5 to 3 reed is a pretty good thickness. Also make sure you're getting the right reed. This is a tenor reed. The alto saxophone reed is actually smaller, so you can't play an alto saxophone reed on a tenor saxophone. Vice versa, you can't play a tenor saxophone reed on an alto saxophone. And if you ever checked out the baritone saxophone reed, that's even another instrument. So make sure you get the right reed for the right instrument too. So, okay, so we attach the reed. So the important thing with that one is you'll want to line up the reed so that the top part lines up with the edge, but it doesn't like hang over too much or it doesn't hang over too little, because again, you want air to leak out. So if you might have to adjust that. And then once you put on the reed, be very careful to slide on the ligature, and you don't want to injure your reed, so be very careful. And then once we get that on there, then you want to lightly tighten the reed on here. And then just sort of wet the reed a little bit to make sure that when we line it up, that it actually presses against the top part of the mouthpiece. So just keep that in mind when you have that. So then, once you got that, you can do a test note. I always like a concert B flat, which is the C key on my instrument. But that's not all. You want to use a tuner, because if you're out of tune, you'll either be too flat or too sharp. So I turn it to on, and then I do slow, and then I basically see where I'm at. So I want to get in the center here. And you sometimes have to push in and pull out. And then a good thing that you might want to do too is do some scales. So that's a good way to tune up your instrument a little bit. Paying attention to each part of the instrument as you play through the scales. So we're done tuning. We have our instrument together. The next part I'd like to demonstrate is to play some sample music. Okay, the first song that I'll be playing for the tenor saxophone is from the book Popular Instrumental Hits. And the song is Linus and Lucy by Vince Guaraldi. So let me get this lined up on my stand here. This is my music stand. I'm going to make sure that I'm still in tune. And it's important when you're going to get ready to play that you have good posture. You don't want to slouch. You want to have good posture so you have good airflow. And then you'll want to make sure that you adjust your mouthpiece, but then adjust your embouchure to make sure you stay in tune. So let me do a C. Okay, Linus and Lucy. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this particular song. You got to make sure that you use the dynamics. Sometimes you'll have mezzo forte, which is sort of medium soft. Sometimes you'll be playing louder. Sometimes you'll be playing a lot softer. So keep your dynamics in mind. There's things called accidentals. You might have to accent certain notes. Eighth notes, quarter notes, rests. So there's a lot of different things you're reading, like you're reading a book. There's a lot of different things on the page. You want to do as best you can to try to follow what's on the page. So that's Linus and Lucy. That's one example of a particular song that you could play on the tenor saxophone. Okay, I'm going to play a sample from the music from the Star Wars Trilogy Tenor Saxophone Special Edition Star Wars Trilogy book. And it'll be the Star Wars main theme. So when you're getting ready to play, make sure you tune. So I'm going to just do a quick little tune. Make sure I'm still in tune. And then when I look at the Star Wars main theme, it's in 4/4, which means that there's 4 beats per measure. So every quarter note gets 1 beat, and I have to make sure that I look at accidentals. And then if there's also a neat particular musical style in here called a slur. So normally you tongue the notes, but at one part I'll actually be slurring the notes so it sounds like they're all connected together. Also, there's something called a triplet, which is kind of neat. So this is just a sample from Star Wars main theme, music by John Williams. 1, Okay, so now we're going to be taking apart our tenor saxophone and making sure that we safely get it back into the case and also give it a quick cleaning. So the first part you're going to start with is your reed. We're going to unscrew the 2 screws on the ligature. We're going to slowly move actually I like to just loosen it, but I don't want to move the ligature over here so I don't break the reed. So I'm actually going to loosen it and I'm going to push from the bottom and actually pull the reed off. So the reed has safely been taken off. Now you immediately want to put it into your protective case. So I always save 1 or 2, 3 or 4 reeds because you never know when you actually might injure one. So let's make sure that we got them in here. So then once that's done, you can put that into a safe compartment in your case. So now the next part, you're going to now use the cap and put that onto the mouthpiece. So I've removed that, and now I'm going to safely put that into my case right here. Again, this is where you could injure your poor little octave key. When you're taking it off, you don't want to grip by the octave key, you will bend it. So make sure that you unscrew here, and then slowly start to bring it out. And then it took it out without actually bending anything. So then once that's done, I'm going to open my case. I'm going to put it into here. Now, if you want, there are like protective caps that you can put on your instrument. Mine actually is missing, but there's one you can put on here, and it will actually keep this part protected. But if not, you can always just put it in without it. So now we take the body of the instrument and set it in, making sure that it's actually lined up with the shape of the actual instrument case. Then we take the neck strap off, put that in the case, and make sure everything is in the case, and then when you're done, you close it and then latch it up. So that's how you take down a tenor saxophone safely. Now, one other thing I wanted to note, if you need to clean it, we have a polishing cloth. That's what you'll use to actually polish the actual instrument. So just give it a little polish. You can polish the keys. If you're having a lot of tarnish and rust, make sure you research what is safe to be doing on an instrument like this. But I usually try to just stick to a polishing cloth in general. If it's wet, make sure to dry it off. It's important to have it dry out, or maybe just have it on a music stand and have it dry out so that you don't have rust starting to form. So you will get tarnish, but I like to most of the time just use a polishing cloth. The other thing that I have is if I need to clean out the inside of my instrument, you can put this cloth into here and then you pull it through, and then you'll be able to like actually clean the cloth. So that's something, actually clean the interior so you can get all the spit and everything out of here. So I'll put it in one way, and then we just tilt it downward. So you'll start to see the one part start to come out, and then you'll pull it through, and then you pull it out. So then you do that a couple times. So that's a good way to clean that. With your mouthpiece, definitely rinse it off and dry it in a sink. That's always a good thing. And then for this part, if you have like a little bit of a cloth, you can use like the cloth to sort of, go without actually putting any pressure or anything. You can use the cloth, or even like a smaller one if you need to, and then just sort of, clean it. So that's how you put together and take apart a tenor saxophone. And always read your manual too, because you'll learn a lot of tips about other techniques. Also on the internet, if you go onto YouTube or talk to your favorite music store, they'll also give you some kits that you can buy, extra accessories. But that's how you take apart a tenor saxophone. Okay, we're going to look at the E-flat alto saxophone. The E-flat alto is a little bit smaller than the B-flat tenor. You have the body of the instrument. You'll next assemble the neck, again being very careful not to bend the octave key. You don't want to put pressure on that, so try to be very gentle with it. And then tighten. And then I always have a couple mouthpieces, but I do like the Selmer. So I have a Selmer mouthpiece actually in its own case. I take it out. A little bit different ligature. They come in different ones. They're sometimes more metal, or they could be more of like a nylon. So we have the cork there, just like with the other one. We're going to add a little bit of cork grease. So let's do that. Okay, so add a little bit of cork grease on there. And then we attach the mouthpiece. Okay, making sure that when we are attaching it that you're not putting pressure on any keys that you don't want to bend. So holding the bell and then attaching it that way. Okay, and then we're going to pick a reed. So again, it's a smaller case. What I like, my favorite one is a 2.5 Van Doren. It's a softer reed, but that's the one I like to use for him. So like with my tenor, I like using a size 3, but a 2.5 and a smaller reed for the alto. So make sure you use the right reed for the right mouthpiece. And this is what the box looks like. So we're going to attach that. Take the ligature off. Line up the reed with the mouthpiece. And then slowly put the ligature back on. And just make sure it's all lined up. And then you can tighten. And then finally just neck strap. So that's how you assemble an alto saxophone. In the next video clip, we're going to talk about a couple sample music. Okay, so for the alto saxophone, one thing that I like to keep with me is a fingering chart. As I go through certain sheet music, I like to see what the fingering is. So what's nice about this particular one is you get to see all the different fingerings for all the different notes. So it's a little tool to keep with you. Also, this I Recommend book is a good exercise warm-up book. So again, since I'm going to be warming up my instrument, I'm going to actually pick something from here to just warm up the instrument a little bit. So they have everything from chorales, very short chorales, to tuning. So they have like different tuning notes. So I'm going to do that first, just to get in tune. So. So we're going to do the tuning of key of G major, B flat concert. So let's make sure that we're all lined up here, that everything is tight. Now I hold this instrument in front of me. I still have good posture, but you can have it off to the side. Usually the bigger tenor, I do that, but for the alto, I keep it out in front, and then just make sure you keep good posture. So let's do a tuning note. Key of D major, F concert. Just make sure that if you have to adjust your tuner. And as you're playing some of the chorales, if something doesn't sound right, you just and just line it up with your tuner. One thing I noticed with the alto is you have the tendency to either be too sharp or too flat, so always keep that in mind when you're playing. So that, I think we're pretty much tuned. So the next one, I'm going to now do some sample songs. Okay, so my first song will be from the book The Lion King for alto saxophone. We're going to go to the 18th measure of Circle of Life. A couple things to note, it's in 4/4, and starting at the 18th measure, we'll start on an 8th note. So that's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's how I count an 8th note for this particular song. We'll just stop there. So that's just a segment from Circle of Life, music by Elton John. The next song I'm playing, The Best of the Beatles, alto saxophone, 2nd edition. If I Fell, words and music by John Lennon and Paul McCartney. This one's also in 4/4, moderately, and it has a lot of sharps in it. So just keep that in mind when you're playing the notes, that if there are sharps, you want to be able to play those accurately. know the rest. So that's If I Fell by John Lennon and Paul McCartney. This next piece is going to come from the Selected Duets for Saxophone. The song is called Quants, and it's sort of an allegro fast tempo. The next song is a jazz piece by famous musician Charlie Parker. I'll be playing a sample from the song Star Eyes. Okay, so the takedown of an alto saxophone is very similar to a tenor. We're going to start with the mouthpiece. We're going to take the reed off first. So loosen the ligature, and then push the reed out from below so you don't damage it. Once you take that off, put it into a safe case, like one of these little cases, and then set it aside in your case. The next part is we're going to remove the mouthpiece from the horn. So again, you don't want to grip on here so you don't damage the key. You want to hold on to the main part of the instrument and then just start to pull off. And then now I actually have a neat little tool that I use. It's a little brush here, and you can actually brush in and out, just sort of clean it out a little bit. Again, if that doesn't work, also you can a little bit of water and then a paper towel or a little cloth, but this just sort of gets that sort of cleaned up, and then let it dry, and then you'll put it into your protective case with the cover. And then the next part, we're going to remove the neck part. And with that one, you can actually use a little bit of a cloth just to sort of dry it out a little bit. And then dry it out on this side. And then put that back into the case. We have a cloth that you can run through your instrument. So you have it enter on one side, the string part at the top, and then just thread it through the instrument, and then you'll want to have it come out the other end, and then what you're going to do is you'll hold it by the actual body, and then you pull that through, and then it'll come out, and then repeat accordingly. Now another thing that I like to do is, especially if your keys are starting to stick, there's this neat cloth. It's called a pad cleaning paper, and you can actually slide it between the keys. It's like a tissue paper, and then just sort of press down the key and then just sort of wipe it, and it'll get it sort of clear. If you don't have these cleaning cloths, they also suggest that you could use like a $1 bill or a $5 bill or a piece of money, but I actually prefer using the cloth. So once you're done with that, then you'll want to add the cap on the end of your instrument so you can protect it. Detach it from the neck strap and then put it back in the case, and then you'll just put everything back in the case and then close it, and then you're all done.
The book resources played samples from were popular music from popular instrumental hits, movie music from the Star Wars trilogy, Warm Up and Tune book, the I Recommend series, a fingering chart, rock and roll, the Beatles, Best of, Selected Duets of Saxophone, Classical, Jazz Music, Charlie Parker Collection, and a movie title from The Lion King. Now I'm going to go over a brief history of how I got involved with playing saxophones. I started playing alto saxophone in 5th grade, then from 6th grade through 12th grade, I played tenor saxophone. So from 5th grade through 12th grade, about 8 years, I played in a pep band, basketball band in high school, a jazz combo in the community during high school, marching band in both middle school and high school, and special school events in high school. And then I played saxophone in college years for about 4 years, from 2003 through 2007, mainly tenor saxophone. I took a break from 2008 through 2015, and from about the fall of 2016 to the end of 2019, I became involved in the Buffalo Grove Symphonic Band, BGSB, a community volunteer band, for about 4 years. I played alto saxophone and tenor saxophone, Buffalo Grove Symphonic Band, and Buffalo Grove Jazz Band. For more resources to learn more about the Buffalo Grove Symphonic Band and Jazz Band, you can check out their YouTube channel, just on YouTube, Buffalo Grove Symphonic Band, or you can go to this web link. And you can also check out their website through the Village of Buffalo Grove. Okay, what will playing a musical instrument cost? Instruments do vary in cost. Consider some of the following: anywhere from a couple hundred to $800 for used and beginner instruments, around $3,000 or more for a more professional horn. Check out your local music shop for details and costs for horn and supplies. Price will vary. 2 example stores I visited: E.M. Woodwind out of Evanston, and also Sam Ash, which is based out of Buffalo Grove. Add in reeds, mouthpiece, books, music stand, and other accessories for a total of $50 to $200. Note, some items need to be replaced every so often. Think about cost for repairs and maintenance of horn every so often. Time, practice, practice, practice. And thank you for coming to today's program. Stay tuned for more programs in the future. Check out social media on Facebook and YouTube, our digital newsletter, our website, and you have a good day.